Hi, everyone. Welcome back to English Podcast Voice. I'm Quinn.
And I'm Riley.
So today we are taking a deep dive into a subject that, I don't know, it feels like it personally attacks me every single evening. I'm talking about the vanishing hour, that great vanishing act between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m.
Oh, I think we all understand that feeling.
Yeah.
So let's ask you, our listener, a question and be really honest. What is the first thing you do when you get home from work or school?
For me, it always starts innocently enough. I tell myself, okay, I just need to decompress. I earned this break, right?
Of course.
So I walk in the door, I'm mentally tired. Maybe I open the fridge, grab a snack, and then it happens. I lie down, I pick up my phone, and I think, just 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes of scrolling.
And we all know how that goes. 5 minutes somehow becomes 30.
Yeah.
Then 30 minutes turns into, 45 minutes?
Yeah.
And you're just staring at content you won't even remember tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you look up, and the whole evening, that precious time you promised yourself you'd use for your English is just gone.
Vanished into the digital ether. And that feeling, that guilt, it's just universal, isn't it? We hear it from learners all the time. I really want to get better at English, but I just don't have time. And that is the absolute core of our deep dive today. We're here to challenge that idea.
Exactly, because what our sources really confirm is that the problem isn't usually a lack of time on the clock. It's more of a failure of intention. It's about how we spend the time we already have.
Yeah.
There's this one really powerful mindset shift in our research. It was your 9 to 5 earns your living, but your 5 to 9 builds your future.
Oh, I love that. That really frames it perfectly, doesn't it? Those evening hours are basically the only time you fully control. So our mission today is to show you exactly how to capture those hours, how to turn that passive consumption into active, meaningful investment. We have 5 incredibly powerful strategies. We're going to cover tiny plans, pocket time, even some psychological defense tactics and memory hacks.
Yeah, it's a complete architecture for intentional learning. But before we really dive into the details of reclaiming your time and building that future, we have a quick request.
Yes. If you find this deep dive helpful, please just take 2 seconds right now to subscribe to English Podcast Voice and give this a like. It is the best way to support the show, and it helps other learners who feel stuck find this content. So thank you. Okay, so let's unpack this big idea. We have to start with the philosophy behind it, right? Because if we don't get the mindset right, none of the tactics are going to stick. Let's talk about the weight of time.
Right. We have to start with the most serious concept first. And it is this. Time is life. It isn't this, infinite resource that just resets every day. When we waste time, we are literally wasting a small, non-renewable piece of our lives. And when you think of it that way, it really shifts things. Time stops being a currency you just spend, and it becomes a value you invest.
Wow, time is life. I mean, that sounds intense, but it's true. It brings this necessary gravity to the whole conversation. So maybe we should clarify what wasting time actually means, because sometimes rest can look like waste, but it's really not, is it?
That's a great point. The sources gave a really simple but powerful definition. To waste time means using it for something that is not important and not helpful for you. And, crucially, this excludes essential things. True rest, genuine growth, connecting with people. Those are not wastes. The waste happens when you do something that doesn't help you learn or grow or genuinely restore your energy.
Okay, that clarification is huge. Because if I'm watching a documentary in English and I'm, say, taking notes, that's productive entertainment. Or if I'm meditating for 15 minutes to clear my head, that's essential rest. But the mindless, endless scroll, that's the non-helpful activity.
That is the perfect distinction between active investment and passive consumption. Passive consumption it's the zero-effort default. It requires no decisions, no energy, and it almost always leaves you feeling guilty and even more tired afterwards.
It immediately makes me think of that water metaphor that one of the sources used. Can you talk about that?
Yes, a great visual. Think of your time like water in a bottle. You only have a certain fixed amount for the day. If you decide to just pour that water onto the floor, by watching low-value content or getting into an argument online, that water is gone. You can't scoop it up later and drink it. You cannot use that time again.
And that finality, that non-renewability, that's exactly why we feel that sharp pang of regret later, isn't it? We literally poured some of our finite life onto the floor instead of, using it to grow something.
Exactly. That feeling of regret is a really clear signal. It tells you the activity was non-productive.
Yeah.
So to stop pouring and start investing, we have to introduce this concept of intentionality. We have to stop living by accident and start living on purpose.
Okay, so for our listeners, let's keep it really simple. What does being intentional mean in practice?
Being intentional just means doing something on purpose, with a specific goal, not just by accident or by default. The problem is, after a long day at work or school, a day full of making important decisions, we experience something psychologists call decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue. I know that feeling so well. You have zero mental energy left to decide, should I study grammar or vocabulary? Should I read or listen? So you default to the path of least resistance.
Precisely. If we don't have a specific plan already in place, our tired brain will always choose the zero-effort option, and that is almost always passive consumption, like reaching for the phone.
Hmm.
So intentional scheduling is necessary because unstructured time, it just defaults to that cognitive laziness.
Okay, so we need an immediate, low-effort antidote to this, something to fight that feeling of overwhelm. And this brings us right to tip number 1, the tiny plan.
The tiny plan is so important because vague goals are like the silent assassins of motivation. If you just tell yourself, today I will improve my English, that goal is, it's just too vague.
Hang on, what exactly does vague mean in this context for our listeners?
Vague just means not clear. It lacks a defined target or a boundary. A big, vague plan gives you no direction, so you just wander around. You waste energy deciding where to even begin, and the task feels so huge that you often just stop before you start.
I actually tried this once when I was learning another language. I told myself I will study for 1 full hour every day. In that 1 hour, it just felt monstrous. It took so much energy just to start that I would skip days, which led to guilt, which led to more skipping. It was a horrible cycle.
That is the classic burnout cycle. It's driven by a commitment that's just too high, it's not sustainable. The goal triggers anxiety instead of excitement.
Exactly, but the moment I changed my approach and used a tiny plan, everything shifted. I changed the promise to myself. It became, every day I will do 10 minutes. That's it, just 10. And it worked. Some days I felt great and did 30 minutes, but my promise was only 10. And every time I finished, I felt this burst of pride because I kept my promise to myself.
And that is the absolute genius of the tiny plan. Think of it like a GPS in your car. If you don't put an address into the GPS, the car just drives in circles. You waste fuel, you waste time. A vague goal gives the GPS no address.
But the tiny plan gives you that small, clear, actionable address. So instead of improve English, the tiny plan is, today I will listen to 5 minutes of one specific English song, or I will write one single sentence using a new word.
Yes. That small address, it lowers the psychological barrier to entry. It gets rid of the decision fatigue. You waste zero time wondering, what should I do now? The moment you sit down, you know the destination. And that clarity makes the task feel achievable. It's about building self-trust.
Okay, so the tiny plan solves the where do I even start problem. That's huge. Now let's talk about finding the actual time. This is for everyone who feels like their schedule is already completely full. And this brings us to tip number 2, use your pocket time.
This is where we get really strategic about how we invest our time. Like you said, we often think of time in these big blocks, the dedicated 1 or 2 hours we wish we had. But time is also made up of lots of small coins.
The small coins, I love that. The 3 minutes here, the 5 minutes there, the 10 minutes while you're waiting for something. And so many of us, myself included, just throw those small coins away.
Exactly. Those little fragmented minutes, the moments in between things, waiting for the kettle to boil, standing in line at a shop, waiting for a meeting to start. These are what we call pocket time. And while a single 5-minute slot feels useless, if you just collect 6 of those a day, you've suddenly found 30 minutes of high-quality study time.
30 minutes that you didn't have to force into your already busy evening. So the goal is to become a pocket time collector. What are some, practical ways to use these little fragments?
The key here is preparation.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have activities ready to go that are designed for micro-learning. So for example, if you're waiting for the bus, don't scroll. Open a flashcard app like Anki and just review 3 new words from yesterday. Or, while you're washing the dishes, listen to 5 minutes of an English dialogue.
Right. Or if you're waiting for your coffee to brew, you could read 5 lines of an English story you left open on your counter. These little low-pressure tasks fit perfectly into those moments.
They're so realistic, especially for people who are juggling work and family. We were looking at the story of one friend, let's call her Maya, who improved her English so much. She had 2 small kids and a demanding job.
Oh, Maya was the ultimate pocket time success story. She always said, I never have 1 full hour. Her life was just too chaotic, so she stopped trying to force it. Instead, she used 5 minutes walking to the bus stop, 10 minutes waiting to pick up her kids from school.
And it all added up.
It did. After just a few months, she realized that all those small, consistent inputs had dramatically improved her comprehension. She basically proved that collecting lots of small, intentional minutes is just as valuable as one big, stressful hour, maybe even more so.
And this isn't just a clever scheduling trick. There's a real linguistic and neurological benefit to this. It's tied to the science of distributed practice.
Right, so what is distributed practice? How can we explain that simply?
Distributed practice just means spreading your study sessions out over time instead of cramming all the information in at once.
Yeah.
Think of your memory like a fragile plant. Cramming is like dumping a huge bucket of water on it all at once. The plant gets overwhelmed, it can't absorb it all.
Okay, I get that. So distributed practice, the little bits of pocket time, that's like watering the plant consistently with a small cup.
Exactly. Each small review session, even if it's just 2 minutes of flashcards, it sends a little electrical signal to your brain. It strengthens the neural connection for that information. So if you reinforce the knowledge consistently all day, it has time to grow and really sink into your long-term memory. It makes the knowledge stickier.
That makes so much sense. I love that idea of strengthening the neural connection. And there was this other cool idea about combining movement with language, inspired by routines in Chinese parks.
Yes, this is about multitasking in a helpful, focused way.
Mhm.
In many parks in China, you see people doing gentle morning exercises. We can take inspiration from that by linking low-impact movement with language recall.
So for maybe 5 or 10 minutes in the morning while you're doing stretches or something, you could try counting your reps in English. Or you could try to recall the English name for the part of the body you're moving. Or just repeat 3 new sentences you learned.
Yes, you are essentially priming your brain for English mode while also waking up your body. The movement increases blood flow to the brain, which helps with cognitive function and memory retrieval. That combination in the morning sets a really positive, focused tone for the rest of the day. Okay, so we know how to find time with the tiny plan, and we know how to use with pocket time. But even if you set aside 10 intentional minutes, there's still a danger. The danger of having that time stolen.
That is so true. A tiny plan only works if I actually do the work. And so often I sit down to study and then poof, I get distracted. So tip number 3 is absolutely critical. Watch out for time thieves.
A time thief is anything that just sneaks in and steals your valuable time without giving you anything good in return. And the most aggressive, most common thief is, sadly, the device we carry everywhere, social media and endless scrolling.
Okay, I have to push back a little here. Sometimes scrolling can be a form of rest, can't it? Like a little escape after a hard day. When does that escape become a thief?
That's a fair question. If you intentionally say, I'm giving myself 5 minutes to watch something funny, and you genuinely laugh, that's restorative. The thief appears when it stops being restorative and becomes addictive. When you sit down to check one notification, and 40 minutes later you can't even remember what you watched, and you just feel foggy and guilty. That's the signature of the thief.
I totally know that feeling, the scroll fog.
Yeah, and the sources emphasize that these platforms, they're not designed for your well-being. They're engineered for addiction. They use quick engagement, short-term rewards, and these engineered cliffhangers, just one more episode, to create what feels like an addiction. And it makes the evening just vanish.
So it's not an accident, it's an engineered trap that takes advantage of our cognitive fatigue. And the worst part isn't just the lost time, it's the mental residue it leaves behind.
Exactly. We need to talk about attention residue. When you multitask, say trying to study vocabulary while also checking notifications, your brain doesn't just instantly switch focus. A little part of your mind stays stuck on the last thing you were doing.
So even if I put my phone down, like 20% of my brain is still thinking about that funny cat video I just saw.
Precisely. That is attention residue, and it seriously degrades the quality of your learning. So protecting your focus is so important for the cognitive integrity of your study session.
Okay, so how do we protect ourselves? It sounds like it comes down to digital discipline and controlling our environment. What are some simple rules we can use?
We need small rules that act like locks on the door. So specific actions could be, the phone stays in another room while you do your tiny plan. Or commit to checking social media only after your 10 minutes of English are done. Use it as a reward, not a default. And a big one, turn off non-essential notifications for a focused hour in the evening.
That's locking the digital door. But what about the physical environment? Because our environment is always pushing us towards the easy habits.
Right. We need to make bad habits invisible and good habits obvious. So if your phone charger is right next to your bed, your phone is the first thing you're going to grab in the morning. That's a cue for distraction. Make that bad habit invisible. Move the charger to the kitchen.
That's brilliant. You're basically using your own laziness against the bad habit. If the phone's charging across the room, you're less likely to get up just to scroll in bed.
And conversely, you make good habits obvious. If you want to read in English, leave the book on your pillow. Or leave your English journal open on the sofa. That way you don't have to decide what to do. The activity is just waiting for you. It lowers the energy needed to start.
I love that. You're not relying on willpower, you're relying on preparation. It makes the productive choice the easiest choice.
Now, after all this talk about intentionality and protecting time, a lot of learners might feel a bit of pressure. They might think, so does not wasting time mean I have to be working every single minute?
That anxiety is so real. And this is why tip number 4 is essential for making this last. Rest is not wasting time. The answer is no, absolutely not. Working constantly just leads to burnout.
We have to reframe rest as an investment, not a luxury. Think of it like charging your phone battery. If you try to work when you're already on 5% battery, the quality of your work is just, it's going to be terrible.
Right. I remember that example from the sources. Someone pushes themselves to work for 2 hours late at night when they're exhausted. But the next morning, after a good night's sleep, they do the same task in just 30 minutes, and the quality is way higher.
Exactly. Sometimes the smartest, most efficient thing you can do is take a break. To rest, step away, and let that cognitive fatigue pass.
And from a scientific perspective, sleep is just non-negotiable for language learners. Our brains need 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep to process and actually keep new language skills.
Sleep is when memory consolidation happens. Think of it like this. Everything you learn during the day is just raw data. When you sleep, your brain is like a librarian. It takes all that raw data, the new words, the grammar rules, and it files it away into the long-term archives. If you don't get enough sleep, the librarian doesn't finish the job, and that information just gets lost.
So if I stay up late scrolling, I'm not just wasting that time, I'm also erasing the good work I did earlier in the day. That's a double loss.
It is. So to help with consolidation, the sources recommend 2 key habits. 1, set a fixed, consistent bedtime. The brain loves routine. And 2, implement a digital sunset.
The digital sunset. So turning off all electronic devices an hour before bed. No blue light, no exciting content, just letting your mind wind down.
Yes, that intentional downtime signals to your brain that it's safe to relax and start that crucial filing process.
Okay, so beyond rest, let's talk about motivation, because that's the key to long-term consistency. Which brings us to tip number 5. Make English fun.
If learning feels heavy and serious, like a punishment, like something you have to do, your brain will naturally try to escape it. Habits need to be built on pleasure and intrinsic motivation. We need to turn English into a rewarding game.
This directly impacts something psychologists call the affective filter. How can we explain that simply for our listeners?
Imagine there's a wall between you and the new language you're trying to learn. When you feel bored or anxious or stressed, when the learning feels heavy, that affective filter, that emotional wall, goes up. It's high. And it actually blocks the language from getting in, even if you're reading the words.
I get it. The stress makes you mentally resistant.
But when you link English to things you already love, like music or funny videos or a TV series, the learning feels enjoyable. The emotional wall, the affective filter drops down, and the language can just flow in much more easily because your brain is open and it's enjoying the process.
That is such a great analogy. So what are some practical examples of making it fun?
Music is a great one. Find a favorite English song, print out the lyrics, listen to it over and over, circle the new words, and sing along. It's repetition, but it's disguised as fun.
Or using a short English TV series, you could watch a short scene first with subtitles in your own language to get the plot.
Right.
Then switch to English subtitles, and then finally try it with no subtitles at all. You're actively growing your comprehension, but it's not frustrating because you already know what's happening.
And this focus on fun leads directly to consistency, which is the most important thing. We saw that powerful example of Nung, the data scientist.
Oh yeah, she achieved an incredible goal. She passed her B1 German exam with a speaking score of 97%.
Yeah.
And she did it by focusing on a structured routine and using all her idle time.
For that intensive period before the exam, she dedicated 1 to 2 focused hours every day. She was collecting her pocket time, using her tiny plans. But here's the really important part for sustainability. After the exam was over, she didn't just quit.
Right. She sustained that high B1 level with just 10 to 15 minutes of specific practice a day, which just proves that you don't need a huge chunk of time forever. You need concentrated effort for a period. But for maintenance, that consistent tiny routine is enough.
And she found that the process of developing that routine, of being intentional, It helped her overcome her fear of speaking. Confidence grows from those consistent small wins.
Okay, so we've solved the time management problem. We know how to find the time and how to protect it. But all of this effort is wasted if we learn 10 new words today and forget 8 of them by tomorrow morning.
That is the ultimate challenge for any learner, isn't it? This next section is about patching the leaky bucket. It's about memory efficiency. We have to overcome what's called the forgetting curve, and the research is brutal. Without intentional review, we forget almost 80% of new information within 24 hours. The information just leaks right out.
So we basically need memory superpowers. Let's break down these 5 high-impact strategies for locking in vocabulary. Hack number 1, make words personal.
Yes, the brain is not a computer. It doesn't just remember facts randomly. It remembers things that have an emotional weight or personal relevance. A word that's linked to your life sticks like superglue.
So if I learn the word nostalgia, that, sentimental feeling for the past, I shouldn't just read the definition. I should link it to a personal memory. Like, I could picture those happy summers at my grandma's house. That memory becomes a little movie attached to the word.
That connection transforms a dry definition into a living experience. Or take a word like exquisite, which means beautiful and special. Link it to the memory of the most beautiful pastry you ever saw in a cafe. The smell, the atmosphere. The word exquisite comes with it.
So for any new word, the first question to ask is, what personal story or strong feeling can I attach to this?
Exactly. Hack number 2, visual associations. Our brains process images much, much faster than text, and we remember them for longer. You need to turn the word into a vivid mental image, a mini cartoon.
And the advice was that the sillier or weirder the image, the better it sticks, right?
Absolutely. The unexpected is memorable. For the word serendipity, a happy accident, you might picture yourself walking in a park and suddenly finding a giant cake with a $20 bill on top. That bizarre image locks the abstract concept in place.
What about a more conceptual word like meticulous, which means being extremely careful?
For meticulous, you could picture a cartoon jeweler wearing big magnifying glasses, very slowly and carefully setting tiny diamonds onto a ring. The intense focus in that image instantly communicates the meaning.
Okay, moving into the science lab of memory. Hack number 3, active recall and spaced repetition.
Active recall is probably the most effective memory technique there is, but it feels hard because you're forcing your brain to retrieve information. Think of it like lifting weights for your memory. The muscle has to struggle a little bit to get stronger.
So if I learn the word frigid, which means extremely cold, I don't just passively read the definition again. I have to close the book, cover the answer, and force myself to ask, okay, what does frigid mean? Use it in a sentence.
That struggle, that's the crucial moment. That's when the memory pathway strengthens. Just reading it over and over is like staring at the weights without ever lifting them.
And the other half of this is spaced repetition. That's the timing part.
Right. Spaced repetition is the smart watering schedule for your memory plant. You space out your reviews. You review today, then in 2 days, then in 4 days, then in a week. You're catching the brain right before it's about to forget the word, forcing it to remember and locking it into long-term memory.
That's incredibly efficient. And for our listeners, apps like Anki or Quizlet are great for this because they manage all that timing for you. They automate the science.
Okay, hack number 4 is so important for actually using the language. Learn words in context. Memorizing words in isolation is just inefficient. It's like having a bunch of puzzle pieces but no idea what the final picture looks like.
Totally. When you learn a word in a full sentence, you see how it actually works. It makes it stick better. If you learn frigid in the sentence, the wind was so frigid it felt like my face was turning into an icicle. You connect the word to a powerful feeling and a real situation.
Or a word like peculiar, which means strange. You'll remember it better in a sentence like, he has the peculiar habit of only eating green food. Context gives the word a purpose.
So the goal is to avoid single words on a list. Always use them in full sentences or phrases so they have a meaningful structure.
And finally, hack number 5, which might be the ultimate memory booster. Teaching is the best memory hack.
Why is teaching so effective? Is it because you can't really teach something until you understand it deeply enough to simplify it for someone else?
That's exactly it. It forces you to reorganize the information in your own words, which strengthens those memory pathways. So, for example, explaining the word flustered, which means nervous and confused.
Instead of a dictionary definition, I could explain fluster as, that chaotic feeling when you're running late, you can't find your keys, and you spill coffee on yourself.
Yes, that specific, relatable scene locks the word in. Or explaining charming as someone who is so pleasant they just make you smile,
Yeah.
like a barista who remembers your order. When you teach it, you repeat it, you reinforce it, and ultimately you master it. Wow, this has been such a detailed look at how to stop time from just vanishing, how to start investing in your future English fluency. To quickly summarize, we identified 5 core strategies.
Right. 1, make a tiny plan. That's your GPS address for the day. It makes it easy to start. 2, be a pocket time collector. Use those small coins of time for consistent practice.
3, protect against time thieves, like endless scrolling. Control your environment and make good habits obvious.
4, remember that rest is charging your battery. It's vital for memory. And 5, make English fun. Link it to your passion so you'll actually stick with it.
And the central takeaway from all of this is that your time is your single most valuable, non-renewable resource. You don't have to be perfect every single day. You just have to be more intentional with the time you have. Consistency, even in small amounts, is what creates real change.
Yeah, just remember the data scientist, Hung. She proved that after that intense period, just 10 good intentional minutes a day can sustain and even improve your English.
So for our micro challenge today, we want to give you a very simple 3-step action plan you can do right now.
Step 1, choose just one tiny English goal for today. Maybe it's learning one new adjective like exquisite and trying one of the memory hacks we talked about.
Step 2,
Yeah.
decide right now when you will do it. Will it be in your pocket time waiting for dinner? Will you do it on the bus? Anchor it to a specific time and place.
In step 3, this is important. After you finish that small task, say something kind to yourself. Acknowledge the effort. Say, good job, I kept my promise, or nice, I invested my time well. That reinforces the positive habit.
And as a final thought for you to carry into your evening, try to end your day with pride, not pressure. Ask yourself this: what is one small intentional thing I did today that honored my future self, no matter how tiny that victory was?
That shift from criticizing what you didn't do to acknowledging what you did do, that is the quiet victory that builds your future.
Thank you so much for investing your time with us in this deep dive.
And don't forget to subscribe to English Podcast Voice for more deep dives into topics that help you learn and grow.
We really appreciate your commitment to your learning.
I'm Quinn. See you next time.
And I'm Riley. Bye.